I'm good.
And hello. We are back after months and doing this continuing the Dr. Phil episode with Matt Walsh and the transgenders. And maybe we'll even get to the part where Matt Walsh shows up that everybody made a fuss about. We'll see. I am a bit exhausted, as I tend to be. I'm also a bit nervous because I haven't done this in a while. I think the tech works as it should, more or less. Yeah, I'm in this weird how has your day been mode. So, sorry.
I mean, your day's been going longer than mine has.
Well, possibly. But all that aside, last time we left off at the slides on the wall. Let's see if I can...
to the LGBT.
No, don't stop talking, man. I just want frames. Oh god, this will be so horrendous. That we left off at this point, and I did a summary of these terms and what's wrong with them and what the actual manipulation is that we see right here on the screen. If you want to catch up with that, I recommend you watch the ending 10-15 minutes of the last stream about this. And yeah, I think that was the most important part of the last one. I have gas in my stomach. Wonderful. So that will be a lot of burping on the top of everything else. However, what I saw on this one, because this is apparently the original channel privated the video of this episode. I just skimmed over the channel. I'm not sure whether they set private all episodes or just this one and a couple others. There was a playlist with full episodes and 9 videos were unlisted or privated. Or hidden, let's say. So this might be one of them. I wonder why. I do not know. I have not researched that. I have not done the legwork. I just noticed this. And now we're gonna talk. And while I was finding a copy of this, which apparently also has 1.2 million views, that is still up. This had an intro that we were missing out on. That was cut from the thing on it, and it might give us some. Oh god, spoilers, because it's usually the intros are usually teasers for the audience. Do we want to cover that, or do we want to just keep on where we left off? We could watch the intro afterwards.
We can pick up where we left off.
Okay. So, oh god, yes. No. Stop it. What is that virtual audience anyway?
Do virtual audience?
Yeah, that was a weird thing on the screen. I would love if Watch Together was showing me actual numbers here. Where I am clicking. Pronoun debate. Ugh. I am sorry for this one. Yeah, here we go. Let's give us the close-up. I think he goes about it once more. We'll get a side view of it. Yes. So about here, I don't know how long they talk about this. But yeah, this is still framed off the camera for a while. So let's jump right into it. Oh god, I don't want to do this. But we will. We will. Because Cyrek has a channel called the Sisyphus Experience, and that means we need to push that boulder up the hill, even if it falls back down at the end. Check out his morning show.
Yes. And Saturday streams.
Yes, you get the occasional whisperant as well if you are into that kind of masochism. I hate this.
And then non-binary describes a person whose gender identity does not fit into the traditional binary of man or woman.
Yeah, I talked. So this is just the end of last time. I talked about this. Non-binary is just nonsense they made up. That narcissistic people, usually borderliners and histrionics, make up in order to get attention, and usually because they don't like themselves, and they mistake that for some gender anomaly. While actual gender dysphoria is a very distinct feeling with an obvious goal where you need to be. It's like imagine like a full body phantom limb. While all these other people, they just mistake not liking themselves or finding themselves ugly. They mistake that for gender dysphoria or anything else, or they just want to be special. Like, I am a Piscis with an ascendant of Virgo and in the moon of the Mars of... fuck off. I am not fit on astrology, and I don't intend to. But it's basically astrology. Make up stuff about yourself to seem more important. And there's absolutely no connection to reality to it, because it's all so vague and so... all-encompassing that it's just... It just fits you. Because it fits everyone. Yeah. Oh, also, what a lot of them, what I've heard now, and after I've listened to more of the detransitioner stories, what has been going on is that in the rainbow cult, as well as the activist therapists, they misinterpret, and I would say a lot of them maliciously, and of young therapists probably out of complete ignorance, and because they have been taught wrong with misinformation, as is the new happy term for bullshit, pseudoscience. They're telling kids that go through puberty, that are uncomfortable with the changes of their bodies and the hormonal changes and the general neurosis that comes with puberty. They just tell them, "Oh, you're just trans. That's you being trans." Because you, a girl growing up with breast development, well, you have nerve tissue growing there. You have more nerves growing there than there were before. Of course, that feels a little bit weird, and all of these other things. And you have the cramps, and lots of girls that where puberty starts to kick in hard. They don't like what's going on, especially if their periods are causing them pain and distress. And one of the escapisms for that is, I don't want to be a girl. But having gender dysphoria is not, I don't want to be a girl or I don't want to be a boy. It is, I know, feel, and act already like a girl or a boy. The opposite of the biological phenotype, let's say. The biological sex. But the body is all out of shape. The brain and body is not in sync. I've explained that more in more detail in the last episode. I'm just trying to TLDR this and probably fuck it up. And hello, trans-conservative waifu in the chat.
Hello.
And yes, they mostly target girls. And I see the chat is not properly on the screen here. I don't know why. Let's see if I can... I need to fix that. Yes, they seem to mostly target girls. Most of the affected seem to be girls. Which is, if you think about the psychology of girls, especially the ones growing up, going through puberty, completely logical, because they far more easily fall for social trends. be part of the group, be special, and of course for esoteric nonsense as they grow up. The ones that don't emotionally mature fully, which is sadly a lot of girls because they get pampered too much, and they keep their magical thinking and beliefs and all this pseudoscience crap that is just like astrology, that is just there to make you feel good and feel special. This is why they buy into the gender pseudoscience very easily, especially when it is accompanied with emotional blackmail, like, oh, we do it for the children, when in reality this pseudoscience just abuses the children. And hello, Stukov. Haven't seen you in a while. They do target girls because they are more easy targets. With the boys, there's also an increase in boys, of course, who falsely transition, but that is its own topic. It works differently for how boys and girls fall into this trap. And aside from the actual, from all these poor kids being falsely transitioned and often sterilized through that, or simply mutilated for life, for the girls, a double mastectomy and a deep voice and stubble on your face. Well, the stubble on your face, that can be fixed, but the other two things, not really. That if you made the wrong choice there, like, detransitioners do increase the suicide rate. They have a high suicide rate, and whether a false positive that transitioned commits suicide before or after the detransition, I would guess that both, but definitely the one who commits suicide before the detransition is counted towards the suicide statistic of trans people, which thusly fuels the fires of the trans activists who say we need to transition even more to save lives. So aside from those, and there should not be a single falsely diagnosed healthy kid, healthy person that does not, meaning that not having gender dysphoria, to be diagnosed with it, to be falsely diagnosed, and thus falsely transitioning, because we have the means to properly identify gender dysphoria. And telling anyone to have a condition that they don't have is simply abuse and malpractice. The other people that suffer because of this, and that is, I would almost say, sadly, the smaller part, is actual trans people. Because the resources for transitioning are scarce. There's very few specialists for these things. Special medications, special operations, if you will. And all of these falsely diagnosed, falsely transitioning people clog up that system. If you live in a country with a healthcare system that covers the costs of some of these or all of these procedures, that is public money that is burned on malpractice. Those are resources that the actual trans people don't get. Not just not just missing out or having to wait for appointment slots with specialists. The worst thing is that the detransitioners then go through it a second time. And it's completely justified for them to go through that a second time because they have been malpracticed on. They need help now. Okay, but still under the line, that is double the resources wasted that were meant for a very, very minute group who need them. And that sets us all back. And imagine that the comparison that I like to bring up lately, because I think it is apt, it is not, and it is not even exaggerated, is imagine instead of these Munchauseners identifying as trans, they would identify as cancerous, pun intended. and claim that self-identification for having cancer is justified and no one should question their self-diagnosis. And then they demand treatment. So they will clog up the oncologies where real patients with cancer are waiting in line, and these people technically cut in line because they don't need this treatment. They only wanted to feel good and get attention, and the treatment, if you know chemotherapy, it's quite a strain on your body. You're literally injecting yourself with poison. Radiation therapy, all of that wonderful stuff. It's quite unhealthy for your body. It's just that we use it for cancer treatment because it's the lesser evil. But people with actual cancer now have to wait in line and maybe even die waiting in line because there is this attention-whoring Munchausener cancer trender that just wants to get his fix and wants to get the attention. Oh, I have cancer. Oh, pity me, pity me. And that's basically what they're doing. And then imagine that there are additionally people who have been talked into believing to have cancer and getting the treatment who don't have cancer. And oh God, I am speechless about this whole attention-seeking industry. Transconservative waifu says mostly females detransition. Yeah, probably because there's an explosion of false diagnoses with girls.
Yeah, there's a book on that called "Where Did All the Lesbians Go?"
Oh, nice. I haven't read that yet. Make a note in the Discord chat, please.
Oh well. It's basically the gist of the book is talking about how there is a misdiagnosis of let's say butch lesbians being classified as trans.
Yeah, because they behave a bit like boys and have male interests. It is literally the tomboy genocide.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are cute tomboys that are not butch, but it's the same deal. And one that I know, she also told me that had she been born later, meaning it being just a bit younger, these activists might have tried to talk her into believing to be trans as well. Because she just recently went through her whole what is her sexuality even? Because she's this type that I think is I've seen like copies of her 2 times before in my life, and I think it's a phenotype that's a product of a specific intersex disorder. Because it's a very specific body development, but that's its own topic and very well off topic from here. And what the hell is wrong with the chat? Why this looks horrible? So it won't fit completely on the screen. All right. Well, there we go. This is so many. This topic has so many pathways. It's like a giant labyrinth, and with 1,000 Hydra heads, and I need to cough. And I'm back. Yes. Any further thoughts before we move on?
No current thoughts.
Okay. And also hello to Exhumed Legume.
Yes.
And that abbreviated to, and how do you pronounce that?
NB.
NB.
And
Yeah, that is. I think I ranted about that last time as well. This is the dumbest abbreviation I have ever seen because they added vowels to it. Why do you add vowels to your abbreviation? Oh, but then you can speak it better. No, you just wanted to stand out. You just wanted to stand out because all of this shit is the product of your attention-seeking behavior that is a mental disorder. This is all of this bullshit, non-binary and all of this other stuff, pansexual and these all this other rainbow nonsense, astral gender. It is all the product of attention-seeking. Look at me, I'm special. Well, there is nothing special about you, but you can make up something special due to this framework. That's all what this is about. This is the framework that allows you to make up random shit about yourself and force everyone else to believe it and respect it. Like as if people would claim, oh yes, I have invisible friends. It's the Smurfs, and look, there's the 100 Smurfs sitting on my couch, and you have to respect that because that is my identity. It works the exact same way. This is of course more obviously delusional, but it works the exact same way. Respect my magical beliefs, and this is not in a religious fashion. It acts like a religion in part, but it's just attention-seeking behavior, narcissistically fueled. There's a lot of Munchausen syndrome going on, Munchausen syndrome is where you claim to have a condition, an illness, and in order to get attention and pity and, oh, you're so brave and all of that kind of shit for it, as well as help that you don't need, so you eat up resources again. And it is with simple stuff like, oh, my legs don't work, so I need a wheelchair. That can be played out relatively well. However, with mental things, Munchauseners usually act like bad hypochondriacs. Hypochondriacs imagine to have the symptoms of something when they read about it, out of a sort of fear. There's more behind that. Hypochondria is a relevant condition that is where those people aware that they're hypochondriacs really need to watch out. They know they need to watch out to not talk about issues that are about illnesses, for example, or other negative things, because then they start to express the symptoms. Their bodies react and create like a rash. When you talk about the symptom of a rash, then the body can actually manifest that rash. It's a very, very odd thing. With Munchauseners tend to imagine a condition that they heard about, and they play it out the way they heard about it, not the way it actually is. And this is how one of the many ways that you can tell someone with Munchausen syndrome from someone with the actual condition. Because the Munchausener does not have the actual condition and does not know what the actual condition to its minute detail manifests as, he gets details wrong and acts very stereotypically. Now, these people that we call transgenders, do they act like people, especially if you know any, with actual gender dysphoria that are transitioning? Or do they act what you would expect a caricature that you heard about would sound like of being trans?
It would be a caricature. Mainly going with things like, I feel a certain way.
Yeah. And this
Or
special...
I identify as.
Exactly. Because, well, I identify as having cancer. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Just because you say you identify as something doesn't make you the thing. You're just talking in delusions at that point. And this is not how identifying works. You identify other people. You don't identify yourself. When the police stops you and asks you, identify yourself, what do they want to hear? That you're an astral gender? Your pronouns? They want to hear your name. They want to hear your name. Who are you? Not what do you identify as, but who are you? Being. So, where was I? Attention seeking, Munchausen, stereotypes. Oh yeah, the problem. So what is special about this situation with these types of Munchauseners is that there's so many more of these types of people than there are of the people with the actual condition in the case of gender dysphoria. And much more so of those that transition, because that is a subset. That is a people with gender dysphoria who transition are a subset of people with gender dysphoria. Not all transition, and those that don't tend to keep it quiet. They don't talk about it. And those that do transition also tend to not talk about it. The only people they want to know about that is their doctors, because they need to. Well, and their closest family and friends. A spouse, maybe. And that's it. But there's a lot more people with narcissistic personality disorder and its derivatives. And then you have, of course, the sexual fetishes, the kink brigade, who seek to justify their deviancy, their queerness, if you will, means this, technically the same thing, through, it's all just trans. We're just trans. No, you're not. Your fetish does not make you trans. It just makes you having a fetish. And with things like cross-dressing fetish, the cross-dressing fetish in itself is not dangerous to anyone. It just looks shit. If people keep it in their bedrooms, no fucking problem. But what the cross-dressers try to do, or at least a large part of the cross-dressers, is, and that is as I said, that is the most benign of the fetishes, is they, through the lie of being trans, they try to push onto us a normalization of this, let's say, anesthetic behavior. That is the nicest way I can put this. They are exploiting a very small demographic, let's say a minority, with an actual medical condition that causes suffering in order to justify their fetishes and their weird behavior and sometimes abusive behavior. And I think that is horrible. And I think that needs to be called out. And the problem is, since people with actual gender dysphoria tend to not want to tell the world that they are trans, because this is a very, very private issue, and the goal is to not have the world know what kind of weird issue you have there. It's difficult to find any that speak up against all this nonsense. And this is why this is also a group that is very easy to exploit and take over, which is what has happened. The T in the LGBT has been completely taken over by narcissists with Munchausen syndrome and weird fetishes. And abusive psychopaths on top of that. I think you get an idea of what I'm talking about. And this turns into one of these endless rants again, doesn't it?
Your rants are good.
I wish I could keep the red string better, the way I did it years ago. Oh well. Yeah, let's go on with this here. So yeah, NB is nonsense.
Yeah.
And
Gender people, we are assigned a sex at birth.
We went over that. Sex is not assigned at birth. It is observed. It is assessed. And that assessment is, in 99.9% of cases, correct. Because we look at the phenotype and say, yep, looks like a boy, is probably a boy. And in almost all cases, it is a boy. Same with girls. Intersex issues do not count as trans. That's its own realm of a specific set of developmental disorders that mainly affect the reproductive organs. Some of those you can see on the outside, others you can't. Some of them are only spotted later on. Some of them are karyotype issues, meaning the whole XXY or X0 stories. Those usually lead to hormonal imbalances in the body and odd development, including infertility. And that is a problem. That is not being trans or anything. That is not being non-binary. That is the very binary. That is the binary. It is you're male or female. And some have health issues that make them infertile. In fruit flies, we have still just male and female, but we have a few more categories for these abnormalities that could be called or that are congruent with intersex issues. Because, well, the fruit fly is very loved by biologists because it is a very simple organism with a very, very nice little set of genes that can be wonderfully analyzed. And we have such things as the meta-males and meta-females, which have these chromosomal issues, but they're also infertile. So it doesn't... So yes, they are male or female, but they're infertile. Why don't we call humans meta-males or meta-females? Because it would just lead to more discrimination. It is rather useless for us to classify ourselves like that. Because what counts for us always is only the phenotype. Do you look like a man? Do you look like a woman? And any confusing shit in between, normal people suffer from that. You don't like to be mistaken for the other sex. And that's where these people made the pronoun game out of. But that is its own beast. We may get to that. Short of it is what I call real trans people, those with gender dysphoria, those that usually do not want anyone to know. They don't need the pronoun game. Never asked for it. I certainly didn't. I find it stupid, and honestly, I find it invalidating to be asked my pronouns. Much more so than being misgendered. Because being misgendered only tells me, okay, there's something I still need to work on. What was it? While being asked the pronouns means this person has no idea what I am even supposed to be. So even when you are, assume you manage to pass, and people just take for granted and assume that you are the other sex, the sex that your gender dysphoria, your brain, believes you were all along. Nice! Mission accomplished. Now some social justicar comes along and asks you your pronouns. How do you think that feels?
Denigrating.
Yes. And how do you think it feels when some social justicar Karen comes along to your organization or company and says, "Oh, I learned that we have a trans woman in our company, one that doesn't want to be noticed as such." And oh, I think we should just use pronouns at the end of all our emails and wear tags with our name with our name tags that also state our pronouns to be more inclusive. How do you think the trans woman feels?
Awful.
Why?
Because now they've been called out. They've been called out as like, oh, I believed I was passing well enough, and now I guess I didn't.
Yeah, kinda. It also says like, it also tells you, I will constantly need to wear this outside badge because no matter what I would ever do, it would never be enough. People would always need this signpost in front of me in order to know that I'm supposed to be a woman. That is the most destructive thing. And this has been created in these people's quest to be more validating. But it is not validating to people with the actual condition. The people to whom it is more validating is these delusional people who make up these nonsensical, magical pseudoscience crap stories about themselves. The whole X's and Xers and Xems and the astral genders and the tree genders and whatever else they come up with. They need this because they're feeding an external creation. And that external, it's like a shield that they have in order to not let any criticism come to them, to their actual person, the very fragile, childish personality. So that anything only gets at this fake personality, this magical thing that is much more awesome than they are, and that's why you must never be allowed to criticize that magical personality. Because once you invalidate that by saying no, your pronouns are bullshit, your astral gender is made up, and you are not trans because you don't have dysphoria. Oh, but you don't need dysphoria to be trans. Yes, you do. Then their magical shield disappears. It is dispelled. It gets hit by an EMP, and suddenly these people are all naked. And the last thing an emotionally immature human, a narcissist, can bear is having the actual fragile, real personality, this underdeveloped, stunted thing that is full of flaws, that basically only consists of flaws, be exposed. These people madly want to not be reminded of their imperfections. It is not that narcissists love themselves. It is that they despise themselves and therefore create this magical personality that is all perfect, and that is the one they love. They don't love themselves, they love the magical idea of their god persona, if that makes sense. Yeah, there's a thing called neopronouns, and it's all nonsense. It's all bullshit. Alright. I'll just try to keep a little bit of the chat. And you, trans conservative wife who once had a man moment in a clothes store, okay? Maybe we'll hear more of that.
And we grow up, when there's a mismatch of how we view ourselves and how society views us, then we can choose to.
No, it's not about how you view yourself. This is, while this whole facts don't care about your feelings. Gender dysphoria is not a thing about how you view yourself. It is a feeling that is grounded in a fact, and that is, so the feeling is pain and incongruence of your body. Has nothing to do with society. Doesn't matter. And clothes do not help with your gender dysphoria. They don't. Maybe they give you 5 minutes of escapism. But for gender dysphoric, the clothes are also not don't give sexual arousal, like they do for a crossdresser or any other fetishist. Instead, they give you a feeling of freedom, because for a moment you can imagine yourself in this way that your brain thinks. And the thing with people with gender dysphoria, we tend to have in our dreams, we tend to it switches. We tend to have the bodies that our brain thinks we have, which is very confusing, by the way. When you're growing up, it's very confusing, and can make you very insecure, embarrassed of yourself. Like, what the fuck? Why did I dream that? Because usually we want to repress this shit, but it doesn't go away on its own. And I know I'm switching between myself and the gender dysphorics. Well, that's because I try to stay on the general side of it, but please know that there are things that I talk from specifically about myself, and I also talked with a lot of other trans people, as well as the fakers. I talked with a lot of them as well, and they're usually all the same person. because they all have the same personality disorder. So it's the thing with people with personality disorders is that they are more the personality disorder than they are people. The NPC meme works here. There are different types of NPCs, but every type of NPC seems to be a carbon copy. There's a little bit more to that. We can talk about that another time. Because, for example, for narcissism, there are different, at least 6 different main styles of narcissism, but at the core, it's all the same. Yeah, before I get lost in that. Feeling. Yes. And the fact behind that feeling, that creates that feeling, is a misdeveloped brain. It's not just that it's trans women have female brains, like more closer to the female archetype, because there are some physiological differences between the male and female brain. People who say that there are no differences between the brains of men and women are idiots. I do not know where they got this bullshit from, because we knew that decades ago.
I can tell you where they got it from. They want to justify their quote unquote science so much that they're ignoring the fact that men and women develop different brains.
What?
They want.
I maybe I misheard you just now. Sorry.
They're trying to push their message so much whenever it comes to the transgender stuff that they are, instead of looking and showing that, hey, men and women have different brains, then if we just say that no, men and women have the same brain, it just is how you feel. So
and because the strange thing is that I have heard people on the center and the conservative side also state that there are no differences between the male and female brain. And
what?
I don't know where they got that from. I mean, it's years ago that I watched those videos, but I have heard them say that, and it just boggles my mind. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry I can't tell you names right now off the bat, because that's so long ago. And it when the skeptosphere was still bigger, that was cruising around there as well, which also told me that you people are not skeptics because you don't look shit up. Very, very few exceptions. So
I will be right back.
yeah, all right. So because there are aside from key differences like the female brain being a tad smaller because women are smaller, and they then just say that but that's because women are smaller. But that's not the point. Relevant is the ratio. I think it was the women's brains that are also a little more dense, pun not intended. But they have an extra round, and I'm lacking the special terms here. It's late, and my English is defunct at this point. Windung, and an extra part that between the hemispheres that connects the hemispheres. So, and female brains also process more between the hemispheres, while male brains are more one side, the other side. I think that was it. But there are other details, like the Center for Sexual Orientation, for example, is bigger in women than it is in men, and gay people have the version that women have. So they technically have a feminized brain, actually, at least in that one aspect. With the brains of trans men and trans women, it is that it's not simply the other brain that it's developed towards. It's that there are parts that are just go into the opposite direction. Like I think it's the limbic system that in trans women is more pronounced than in normal men without gender dysphoria. So let's say men with. So let's start over. The limbic system is more pronounced in men over women, and men with gender dysphoria have an even more pronounced limbic system, while women with gender dysphoria have an even smaller less pronounced limbic system. And there are several issues where it's just this is the wrong direction. What even is going on? And one of the facts of gender dysphoria, of the basis of it, seems to be, among other things, a damaged androgen receptor, which is also why it doesn't help throwing more testosterone into trannies, into gender dysphoric men. Which is, I don't know why I keep hearing people bringing up that idea. And I hear it from conservatives. From centrists and conservatives. And I don't know why you bring that up. Don't you think that this would have been tried for decades? And it has. And there are still men who are trying to repress their gender dysphoria and overcompensate, go to the gym. They certainly do take extra testosterone. And it doesn't work. Because that, broken receptor. It's like you have a power socket in the wall, and it is from a different country, and all your what's it called? All your cable things, they don't connect because it doesn't fit. Exumt legume has a big text there. The conservative side of the no brain differences claim is probably an attempt to dismiss transgender as a concept. If men and women's brains are the same, then it all comes down to the body. Maybe. I haven't heard it in a while. The claim that the brains are the same is just dumb. Because the same way male and female bodies are the same. Because we are the same species. But things have different sizes, things are a little bit more pronounced here, a bit more pronounced there. It's like saying, well, male and female hip bones are the same because they have the same basic shape. Yeah, except that the common differences that the female type has also have an evolutionary purpose. Pelvis, I meant pelvis especially. Oh god. Like, this whole brain thing is very interesting. And it is something by which we can determine whether a patient is very, very likely, with way over 95% accuracy. I am just scared to say 99, but it looks like 99. Accuracy, whether a patient is gender dysphoric or not. And this is this would be a hard diagnostic tool. But the activists are against using such hard diagnostic tools because, and I quote, it would erase trans identity. And that should tell you what this is all about. It is about that fake, magical personality that they want to keep up. And the actual checking, do you have a brain that we know gender dysphorics have? Oh, you don't? Well, I guess you're not trans. Then you also won't get any medical treatment. At least not for free. At least not on the cost of any healthcare system. And
What?
Yeah, and that would shatter the magical persona that these Munchausen syndrome people and the attention-seeking fetishists, or the fetishists want to justify their fetishes as totally normal things that everybody needs to not just accept, but they need to do it in your face, and you need to like it, not just tolerate it. You need to like it. Because I just had a thought. They want to remain Schrödinger's trans people. As long as we do not make a proper medical check that we could do, they can keep deluding themselves to be trans. This is what they mean with trans identity. The trans identity that they want to be solely based on self-identification, meaning self-diagnosis, will remain as long as you do not open the box and check whether the cat is dead or alive. As long as you don't look into the box, they can claim that the cat is alive. That's the whole thing. Alright, Cyrek is back. Hello, Cyrek.
Yes.
Have I
Yes,
bored
I'm
you
back.
so much?
No.
Did you hear anything of what I rambled?
I heard bits and pieces of it, yes.
Damn it, that's not enough.
I can always go back and listen.
Yeah, alright. Yeah, but not while we stream. Any snippets that you heard? Do you have any thoughts on any of that?
I've never actually heard anybody that calls himself a conservative or
Sorry.
like center. Well, I've heard some people on the center say that men and women's brains and biology are the same. But I've never heard anybody on the right or conservative say that.
Yeah, I just don't wanna. I just don't wanna say names because I don't want to be wrong on this, because it's a pretty heavy accusation. And it irked me a lot of the time, and it often sparked in me the want to start making content, because what the fuck are you talking about? Look at these papers, look at these graphics, look at these graphs, look at these tables. Alright. Do you think because I need some feedback from outside here, and otherwise I just get lost. So Sarek is in part here to rein in my autism.
I don't know if I do a good job or not of that.
Well, you're around, others aren't. It's better than nothing. That doesn't sound like a compliment. Fuck. Sorry. Oh dear, what a shit show. How do you think the cancer comparison works?
The cancer comparison works well enough because, I mean, people with Munchausen's do that all the time, right?
Yeah. The Schrödinger's trans?
Mm-hmm.
I just came up with that on the fly. I thought I'd just try to formulate it while I have it in my head and then it's recorded.
Why am I the most responsible one in this? I'm getting called away again. Something
Oh.
apparently is going on that I need to handle because nobody else can.
No. It's all wrong.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have the stream open so I can hear you.
All right. Let's solve the thing, and I'll ramble on about the next 3 words that whoever this is utters.
Yes.
Either or just socially transition or both.
Social transitioning is bullshit. Doesn't help anyone. That is something for people who imagine to be trans, who also just don't like themselves, and it can be an actual slippery slope for some people to get further into believing to be trans when they're not. Social transitioning is also social transitioning. How is it even supposed to work when you don't medically transition? How do you pass? Social transitioning, to me, as I have seen it so far in out there in the wilds, is just people cross-dressing all of a sudden, and you have to accept it. And that is then like overweight, bearded guys wearing a miniskirt. And I'm sorry, that is not socially transitioning. It's just bullshit.
Not every transgender person chooses to medically transition.
Yeah, that is the ones that also don't tell you that they're trans. But and so anyone who tells you to be trans but will not transition is an idiot and probably isn't trans. It is as simple as that. It's someone with other problems, someone with Munchausen syndrome, someone with personality disorders, magical beliefs, someone who bought into your bullshit, someone who projects his or her problems onto this medical issue. That is, so then we're dealing with someone who neither has Munchausen syndrome nor hypochondria, but has an escapism problem, and believes that if I solve this other issue that I now believe is the cause of all my problems, then all my other real problems that I am repressing will magically poof away. What really happens in those cases, whether they just medically transition, whether they just socially transition or actually transition, is that the actual problems won't go away, and the transition of whatever kind just adds more. Transconservative waifu says, that's silly. The person is a lady with a beard. You mean the one on the right? That is an alleged... I don't even remember what she I just cannot respect these kinds of people, because this is not a trans woman. Any trans woman cannot stand her beard, cannot stand the beard shadow. This is a fetishist. Simple as some autogynephilia. The difference is between gender dysphoria and autogynephilia is autogynephilia is a sexual fetish. There's sexual arousal involved in the image of being the other sex. But the main difference, the more important difference is, in my eyes, is gender dysphoria is all encompassing. It affects every piece of you. While autogynephilia is usually only obsessed with one or two aspects, traits of the other sex, of the biologically opposite sex, either superficially or as being looks, or being a bodily function, like the getting off on the idea to have a period, which some of these people are.
Excuse me, what? People get off to that?
Yes. Well, some get off to the idea of having breasts or giving milk, but nothing else. It's not anything else. It is not dysphoria. It is not a phantom limb or anything. It's just that the idea of having this body part or this bodily function and expressing that bodily function gives them sexual arousal. And there are people who have that with apparently having a period. And if you ask actual women what they think about having a period, it's usually that they could well do without it. The only good thing about it is that sometimes a child comes out of it. Trans women, so men with gender dysphoria, are ambivalent about periods. Then they are not like, oh, I also need a period. There are some crazies who are like that because they're like this I need to have everything or I'm not complete. Like it's a bit obsessive. It's a bit manic. That's why therapy is important. But it's more for trans women tend to have a more realistic approach. In the sense that, yeah, I mean, at least I don't have a period, but I deal with that if it meant I could have my own biological children. That's more the pragmatic approach that you see in actual dysphorics. And here we have, I don't know, seems to be fine with those hairy arms, is fine with those that beard, even grooms it apparently. Like, no, that's not a trans woman. That's just a weirdo.
For me, I chose to medically transition to feel comfortable in my own skin.
Oh, so he transitioned fully, yes? Is that it?
I don't know.
Okay, let's hear that again. Bloop.
We view ourselves and how society views us, then we can choose to, either medically transition or just socially transition or both. Not every transgender person chooses to medically transition. For me, I chose to medically transition to feel comfortable in my own skin.
Okay, so maybe this trans man had actual gender dysphoria. That could as well be. The other one definitely is a fetishist. So, because of the beard, trans man growing a beard, of course, that's part of it. That's okay. That's part of the goal. However, I wouldn't cut it like that, because why would you want a neck beard? But no, I'm just kidding here. The thing with gender dysphoria is that what the data is showing us, the same data that we know from how the brains are anomalous in trans people versus non-trans people, dysphoric people versus non-dysphoric people. Hormone therapy seems to normalize the brain somewhat within 2 to 4 weeks, roughly. I think it was 3 to 4 weeks. I'll just say it to be on the safe side. And at the same time that the gender dysphoria massively drops. And that goes across the board. So people who take hormone therapy, who start hormone therapy, and after a month have no significant improvement in their mood, probably didn't have gender dysphoria to begin with and should definitely rethink whether they want to continue that medicine. You're probably making the wrong decision by staying on it. And it is not that you get euphoric all of a sudden, it's rather that a lifelong depression is lifted off you and you suddenly get to 0. And that 0 feels like heaven, because you've never been at 0. You've always been beneath 0. That is not euphoria, because some of these trans activists, they also talk of gender euphoria after they finally got their hormones and this operation and that operation. No. There is no such thing. That is, if that is that, then that is rather a sign of your mania, of your obsession with the idea of being trans instead of actually being trans. What the loss of, or the reduction of the gender dysphoria pain feels like is more like a weight lifted from you and you feel free and normal, even though there haven't been a lot of changes in your body yet. Your brain got them, because your brain finally has the right hormonal cocktail that it expects, that it always thought it needed, and biochemically speaking did need. So yeah, the hormone therapy is the key part. Everything else just helps you, well, feel good about yourself when you look in the mirror, and of course pass in the outside world.
Going back to the therapy thing, and how you said it takes about 3 to 4 weeks, right?
Yes.
So roughly a month. I can tell you how these people think if they don't feel like they've leveled out at all, or have shown that it is actually working. They're going to be like, oh, it must take a little bit longer. Let me continue on. And then they just keep pushing that goalpost back and back.
Yeah, but you should just make yourself a hard line where you say, okay, if it's not here after 3 months, let's just leave it. Because if you stay on this stuff for too long, you render yourself infertile, and your fertility will not return. So I am all for making brain scans pre-hormone therapy. If there are ways to easily isolate whether you have that broken androgen receptor, check for that as well. Yeah, and that's it. And then we can also do a we need more data on this anyway. And I would have loved to. I would have loved to contribute to that data. But since I'm already on hormones, that is not really that helpful. Thing is, we need also more brain scans after taking hormones, and we need dear detransitioners. If any of you is listening, if you have any research hospitals in your vicinity or know any in your country, please ask them. Tell them, here I detransitioned. Would it make sense to gather some data or make studies with detransitioned people on the brain scans? Because we need to know what happened to your brains too, in order to maybe justify or to have a better case to justify. We need better diagnostic tools so that cases like yours do not happen, that this pain is not done to others, that this abuse and malpractice is not done to the innocent and healthy. Transconservative wife who says that's why I want to have kids before I take hormones. Had a brain scan in 2018. It was for my migraines. Yeah, then they checked for different things, but yeah. I always recommend freezing up some of your haploids, some of your sperm. It lasts at least 10 years. After that, it deteriorates somewhat, so you better do that before you take hormones. Other than that, you should be fine. It's just pretty expensive to do the freezing up, and then you have an annual fee. Think of it like $30 to $40 a month. Yeah, about $30 a month should be where it's at right now. All right, did I forget anything you said, Cyrek?
No.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we need studies on the detransitioned. We need studies on detransitioners. Please. Maybe if you because these research especially research hospitals or university hospitals, they always look for patients to do studies on. If they know there is a set of people that they could test, then the likelihood of them starting a study in that realm is helpful, is more likely. Yeah, so please contact people if you suffer from this, especially then. We need data, and maybe it can save lives in the future.
This is different from being stuff too, because for many non-binary people, they might identify as trans because they don't identify with that gender assigned at birth.
Oh God. This is by the way something new they're doing. Because at first they were all claiming that non-binary is trans, and now they are starting to make the distinction that it's not the same. Because there are several reasons for that. One is that they want to get rid of the idea of gender dysphoria, because people with actual gender dysphoria can be biologically proven and are a proof for the gender binary. The dreaded difference between the sexes. We're not, as they hoped, the great new proof that it's all just society molding us. No, we are the proof that it's biological. We have no choice in it. It's just there. Because it's to the point that gender dysphoric men have certain reflexes that only women have. For example, in bed. It's an odd thing. And no, I'm not talking about the genitals. Yeah. And now, so that they're trying to get rid of the actual gender dysphorics, And that's why they get demonized and called transmedicalists. And the definition of what that entails changes constantly. Allegedly, it's people who insist that you only count as trans if you had all the surgeries, which is simply not necessary. The thing that counts is, do you have gender dysphoria or not? And whether you have done any procedures doesn't matter. It's the condition, it's the mental condition that is verifiable by measuring the brain that makes you trans. Because your, what they call gender and your biological sex is at odds. You have the symptom of this full body phantom, that is what makes you trans. Whether you tell anyone about it or not. It's not a transition that makes you trans. You can transition all you want. If you don't have dysphoria, you're not trans. You're just some body modification weirdo. Being a drag queen doesn't make you trans. It's just a cross-dressing, sometimes art form, sometimes just ugh.
But for a lot of non-binary, don't exclusively identify as a man or woman.
No,
and
but
under that, there's a whole umbrella.
non-binary doesn't exist.
I said this about 3 times now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but this
I
is...
just hate the term. It
Fake.
doesn't exist.
Yes, and I just want to be special. I don't feel like a man. I don't feel like a woman. I am... Okay, you're a special snowflake. You're literally a special snowflake. But you know what? There's all these snowflakes out there. Do you know what they are? They're all snowflakes. And you know what? There are specific categories of snowflake types. And you fall in one of them. No matter how much you, and this is the funny thing, no matter how much you try to define yourself away from man and woman, you never come up with anything new. You do not come up with any third gender. You do not come up with anything diverse. You just mix and match the 2 existing ones. Because you don't actually have any creativity of your own. You just want to be seen. You just want those looks all the time. And we've had the cases like Little Milo, not Yiannopoulos, but the alleged trans man, wasn't, turns out not trans, a friend of Riley Dennis, who's also not trans, but very obviously a attention-seeking fetishist. He even admitted that he's not trans, doesn't have dysphoria. And his little friend Milo also admitted to not have dysphoria, and in another video admitted to go into the other sex's bathroom because she likes to what's the word? Get a reaction out of people. It's literally just to make a commotion. That is a histrionic personality disorder. Histrionics are narcissists. Not all narcissists are histrionics. Borderliners are narcissists. Not all narcissists are borderliners. Psychopaths are narcissists. Not all narcissists are psychopaths. Some narcissists are just narcissists. Yeah. This whole non-binary stuff, it's annoying. And these people all look like wardrobe malfunctions. And some look like complete stereotypes, like cartoon characters. And they all have the exact same style. Like, you know this one with the woman that wears a cardigan, maybe a cardigan or a dress shirt, a bow tie, has the sides of the hair shaven, and then this the hair to the side and slightly forward, and then oftentimes some weird glasses. Have you seen that type? The bow tie is the defining factor, I believe.
I'm not.
Oh God, comes up everywhere. I'll show you something later. Scribelight had one of these. Also thinks she's non-binary. Like, oh god.
Gender identities, where people might have pronouns that change day to day.
That's
What?
called mental illness because they if you can't nail down what you are, something's wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've heard this before, but this is literally the most defining, most blatant. I want to be special. Like, you know, your emotions, your emotional state changes from day to day and throughout the day. That doesn't mean that your sex changes or your gender. Your gender, by the way, it's just a fancy word for personality, interests, preferences, sexual orientation. They would like to put sexual orientation in there, but it has been a distinct factor for too long, so they can't easily put it in there. But they would love to. Because they also want to tell us that your sexual orientation can also be molded. Just why they try to push all this sexualization into kindergarten, preschool, and the first grades of school. Because the kids are still moldable, you can't tell them any bullshit like Santa Claus is real. And yes, he isn't, Cyrek. I'm sorry.
What?
Santa not real.
What? I know Santa's not real. Saint Nicholas is real.
That is true. Well, not anymore. He's dead.
Well, he was alive at one point, thus making him a real human being.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I got lost on the joke. I need more experience points with this too. Or maybe I need more glucose. Who knows? Where were we? Changing pronouns every day. Right. This is similar to people with alleged dissociative identity disorder. Also alleged, like most of those are Munchausen cases. Usually they have borderline personality disorder. And play at having split personality while in a way that, as I explained before, in a way where they imagine how it would be to have a split personality disorder while they don't have a split personality disorder, which is in itself so rare that many people believe it's not a real thing in the first place, in part because the first ever recorded case turned out to be a fraud. So these usually girls, probably because borderline, which is a mainly female personality disorder, claim to have dissociative identity disorder, which is, I think, a bullshit term in the first place. And they use their other personalities as cop-outs for not having to take responsibility, what they did or didn't do, and what they have to do, or what they said that turned out to be wrong, and then argue against their own point as if they were arguing against you. And once you catch on to that and notice, and this is very, very confusing and infuriating, when you then catch on to that, wait, you're not arguing for my position, but you're arguing against me? The girl with the ID will then say, oh, I actually agree with you. It was my other personality that was disagreeing with you. It's literally to always remain in the right. And it is an expression of this narcissistic bullshit, of never having a flaw. And what they do is that, in part, they call their different emotional states different personalities. They call their emotions personalities. That is not how split personality works, or anything like it. And there's this changing pronouns or gender throughout the day, which is this gender fluidity bullshit. It's just like that. Oh, my emotional state changes, so my gender changes? No, that's just you have a different emotional state now. You being angry now is not a different gender. Is that angry gender and sad gender? What are we? Where are we going here? Sullen gender? Depressed gender? Everything's a gender now. Which is why the attack
There's
helicopter
also-
meme is appropriate.
Yeah, there's also something called agender. I don't know what it is. I think it's like asexual.
No, agender just means that you don't identify with any gender, so you don't have any.
But
Yes.
no.
It is the total absence of gender. Which means you would need to be like the gray NPC meme without any script loaded. Do you have any interest in anything? Yes? Well, you're not agender anymore. Congratulations. Or do you not have any interest in anything? You have a low drive to do stuff, low energy. That's not agender. That's likely a depression or a burnout. This whole stuff, this whole bullshit, this whole gender ideology, pseudoscience, confuses people about their actual problems. This is one way how it makes people sick, because it keeps people sick. It doesn't let them address their actual problems, because they can't even identify, properly assess their actual problems. That's the issue here.
Have one set of pronouns for the rest of their life. Fluid with their gender identities in itself. It's very confusing, very nuanced, but I think that what you were talking about earlier, with it being that maybe traditionally, for centuries.
Where's the science about any of this? All we have is people making these claims. They only started making these claims in the past 10 years.
I can give you the science that they pull from. His name is John Money.
Not even. Not even. For 50 years we didn't hear this shit since John Money. This is a recent thing they made up. Otherwise we would have heard of this crap for, what is it, 50, 60, 70 years at this point? When were the money experiments, in the 50s or the 60s?
50s.
Yeah, so that's 70 years. 70 years that we could have heard about non-binary and gender fluid. We didn't. This is shit they made up in the past 10, 15 years at best on Tumblr. It all came from Tumblr. Or at least that's where it caught on. Who used Tumblr the most? Girls with sexual fetishes. Girls with borderline personality disorder. Magical thinking. Astrology crap. All this absolute nonsense. Oh, I can talk with angels. I channel the demon Balachabab. Because I'm a Wicca witch thingy. Hey. I cast curses on Trump. Woo. I make blood magic with my menstrual crap. Like, fuck off. That is Tumblr. If without Tumblr or without social media, none of this shit would have caught on. Because there would be no media distributing this crap. Where would this come through? Women's magazines? Those are read by adult women. Youth magazines? Maybe? But if that had caught on with the parents would have stopped the kids from getting those magazines, and they would have probably boycotted the magazines. Teachers? We would get the situation that we have now. It would all be more obvious. But since it's just in this corner of the internet where the parents don't look or can't look, it just caught on, and you got the social contagion. And then, especially with girls, every girl needs to be special. Every girl needs to be part of the group, because that is the you could say evolutionary imperative of girls, that they need to build social groups, because that is what forms the tribe. And in order to keep the tribe together, we have a homogenization of interests and special attributes. Like, yes, they all want to be special, but they also all need to be a homogeneous group. So if one girl is special and stands out, the others try to copy her. Because they all want to be part of the group. And this is how the tribe slowly changes, how the culture slowly evolves, how the religion catches on, a new one. It's always through the girls. So here comes this shit. that gives you an excuse to be special by just making up a fantastical pseudoscience story about yourself, and everybody else has to accept it. And that's why I make mention of the term pseudoscience, especially through that they can say this is a valid thing, this is a real thing, this is not just magical astrology, and thus feel like they have more substance behind themselves. And so there's one girl that's special now, then there's two, then there's three, and then there's the whole class. And then suddenly 10 girls in your class of 25 kids are suddenly trans and want to transition and want to chop their breasts off because they're all boys now. Or something else. It's a social contagion. They wrongly called it, what was it? Rapid onset gender dysphoria? That was a completely wrong term. It is just social contagion. It is not actual gender dysphoria. It's just a social contagion hysteria, you could say. Hysteria, mania, whatever, whichever term would apply. Obsession. Obsession, fashion. We can find a better term for that. But the phenomenon described under rapid onset gender dysphoria is correct. You have a bunch of kids that suddenly starts claiming to have a medical condition they don't have because the other kids claim to have it. And we already had that data over 5 years ago in Australia, where the clinicians noted a sudden rise in claims of kids being trans of over 300%, meaning 3 times as many kids as before. And when they asked the kids, well, why do you think you're trans? Many kids answered, well, the other kids are doing it. And that is the truest answer you'll get. And of course, the social justicars don't talk about that. But the kids, in their innocence, admitted what it really is. The other kids are doing it. There's also some other sad, nuanced things, like kids seeing that the kids claiming to be trans get special treatment, get special protection from bullies, etc., while they don't. They're left alone, like kids that get bullied usually are left alone. They're not protected by the teachers. They're rather told to stand down when they get beaten up, to not be as bad as the bullies. While the teachers don't try to engage with the bullies. They avoid them. But when you claim to be trans, suddenly the teachers grow a spine. So some bullied kids claim to be trans, not because they are trans or because they think they're trans, but because it protects them from the bullies. So don't tell me that we are oppressed and hunted. We are now privileged to the point that people who are not us want to be us for whatever reason. Because they want those privileges, those protections.
People have with maybe the gender that they were assigned at birth. When we look at history, and we look at cultures too around the world, we see that third, fourth, fifth genders have always been around.
No, oh god, no, it's fourth and fifth. No, it's fourth and fifth, not just third. This idiot is making up crap on the fly. There was no third gender. It's that different cultures have approached the whole thing that we call the rainbow shit, starting with homosexuality, have dealt with in different ways. But it's all the same conditions. Homosexuality, maybe bisexuality. The only times you see bisexuality is when the homosexual act happens. And the gender dysphoria issue, as well as all your stupid fetishes, different cultures dealt with that in different ways and interpreted it in different ways. Some thought, oh, there's some holy thing here, there's some god stuff happening, some spiritual stuff. That's why some of those types were then lauded as priests. or as the some intersex people as eunuchs or similar things. That like a born eunuch, not a made one, and got the shaman role, for example, or in with the Native Americans, and I still find that to be a stupid term. It was they called it two-spirit, what best fits gender dysphoria, and that is not its own thing, because they like to do this LGBTQ plus IAF whatever, and then there's a two somewhere. That which stands for two-spirit. Two-spirit, however, is not its own thing. It's just what the Native Americans called, oh, you have trouble with your body and you think you're a woman. Well, that is because you have the spirit of a man and a woman in your body. Like there was a spiritual mishap when you were born. That's all that is. And esoterics today have a similar idea about it, where they believe that people with gender dysphoria, in their reincarnations, through their reincarnations, were one sex for too long. Now they are the other sex, but the soul has not adapted yet. That it should have also switched, but because you had too many male incarnations, or too many female incarnations, and now you have a male incarnation, and your soul got lazy in the transformative process, so that doesn't match. Or they believe that you simply have, when there are esoterics who believe souls have a fixed sex, they just believe you got the soul of the other sex. And that's that. That is not another gender. Also, again, gender, not sex. We're talking, they're conflating the term now again. When they interchange, when in the beginning, this person admitted that there is that biological sex and gender, the mental stuff, are their own things. But right away afterwards, it's only the term gender, and it is used interchangeably. Sometimes you hear the word biological sex, but gender is always used interchangeably. It means both. And that is the confusing part, and it is deliberately confusing. Maybe not consciously done by this idiot, because I think this is an idiot, who just tries to justify being an aberrant. Well, yeah, let's go on.
And then different idea of what gender is, or maybe here in the United States.
I have a gender pronoun chart that I got really confused about, and I'm just admitting straight up, this.
What?
What are all
The
of
hell?
these? I see one.
I see some furry ones. Ah, this is great.
Ones.
What?
I see a set of three. Two sets of three that are real.
Okay.
refer to
This is
individual
good because the her and the zer, but mostly the her, the HIR. This says here, but that's I always heard it as her. Is a furry thing that was made up by someone who wrote Star Trek fan fiction with a specially created furry race that was designed to colonize harsh environments, harsh planets with harsh environments. That's it. Which is a hermaphrodite species, an actual hermaphrodite species that goes through a hormonal cycle where they change from a more male pronounced personality to a more female pronounced personality throughout the month. So it's thought out. It's actually thought out, but it is a different species that is actually hermaphroditic. And for that species, it kind of makes sense However, humans are not hermaphrodites.
Very, very small few are, and
No.
even then, it's not really hermaphroditic.
Yes, there was a condition that was falsely called that before we knew better. But there are no, because hermaphroditism would imply that you are fertile both as a male and a female. So you could impregnate and you could be impregnated, and both would result in a child. That case has never been. It's never happened. If it had, it would not only be noted as this one super special case, but the socialists, they would cite it up and down, left and right, every day, 24/7, for years, without pause. Always point at it. Don't you think?
Yeah,
Is that happening?
they would.
Is
No.
that happening? Thus, this is one of the rare occasions where, what is the fallacy called? Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, or the other way around. Yeah. Evidence of... my brain is fried. But in this instance, the absence of this behavior of constantly pointing us to this one real true hermaphrodite, we can see as proof that this case doesn't exist, never happened in all of human history. Or they just never found it in the literature. However, I'm pretty sure they would have at this point. So, yeah, furries. Holy shit. Oh, furries also have a variant of transgenderism combined with the magical genders. It's maybe a variant of Munchausen syndrome, where they claim to be their made-up furry characters that are not just animals, but usually very complex animals, combined chimeras, also combined with mythological creatures like a sphinx or a kitsune. And the furry term for that is otherkin. People who truly believe to be their furry characters that they made up, their so-called fursonas, from persona, but fursona. And that's basically the same thing. It's basically thinking, believing, and insisting and forcing others to respect your belief that you are your Dungeons and Dragons character that you made up. And those people also deal in wacky genders. And the transgenders are basically doing just that with their made-up genders. Their made-up genders are the same thing as the otherkin's furry personas that they insist that they are. Does that sound sound?
Yeah, that's pretty much sums up these people.
Zerself. Like, how can Dr. Phil take this Dr. Phil take this seriously? Is this a real doctor? Because
I don't know.
There were things that were obviously contradicting, and he didn't interject at all.
This chart, I didn't.
So I don't know how this show works, by the way. I just heard. I know from far away that this show by this name exists, but that's it.
Know how to use the chart, and we don't need to go through the whole thing, but there were, like, just using co.
Not all these pronouns I think I even recognize too, which is okay.
What?
No.
Do you mean you haven't heard of them, or that you don't accept them? Because recognize can have different meanings.
This person means that they've never seen these before.
Ugh.
Right? End of the day, too, people will have different pronouns beyond he or she or even they, which, I use in a single.
No, don't. And sorry, you did too, probably because you're confused. If it has a beard, it is a man. It is not ma'am, it is a man.
When did I say they?
just
I
a
said
few
this
seconds
person.
ago. Yeah, and then you
I
said
said this
they,
person.
and then you said they. It's like a mind virus. You don't even notice it's coming in.
Context for myself. See, there's an ongoing evolution of language and how people.
That is not evolution. This is just chaos. Evolution. Dude, this is the thing. God, now I need to talk about neologisms. Oh, fuck. Ugh. I need to look up the 3 rules of neologisms because I only ever can remember 2 at the time. The thing about evolution of language is, yes, it happens, yes, language changes, but there is a difference between the natural evolution of language, the natural changes of language, and language engineering, which is artificial and made up and pushed into a direction on purpose. What we're dealing with here is the latter, not the former. The former, the healthy evolution of language, functions in usually making language more precise. As a language develops, the grammar gets more complex, so that your language, that what you can express with your language, gets more precise and less mistaken. This is also how you get new words. A new word that hasn't been there before is a neologism. This, however, you can't just make up a word and then force people to use it. That is a failed neologism. A neologism catches on and becomes part of language by, first off, it describes something that no other word has described yet. And is precise. It needs to be precise. And people need to accept it. They need to need it and they need to accept it. If they don't accept it, it doesn't catch on. And there's a third, and I said I can only remember 2 at a time. So, but just with the first 2, there was a couple times an attempt of language engineering in German to come up with a word that resembles the first equivalent to being full. Like in English, when you're hungry and you're thirsty, right? Mm-hmm. When you are hungry and you have eaten and you can't eat more, what are you?
Full.
When you are thirsty and you have drunk enough so that your thirst is gone, you are
Quenched.
that works, but you're also full. Yeah, quenched first. I don't think we would say gelöscht. In German, the word for being full from your meal is called satt. It's a word that gets the meaning across as saturated. Like, you have a German on here, so we need to make at least one Nazi joke. The other nations believed after Hitler had taken Chechnya, he was saturated. That Germany was saturated. Which turned out not to be true. So that is, we say satt for when we have eaten enough. But we do not have a word for when we had been thirsty, which is durstig. First is Durst. We don't have a word for when we are not durstig anymore. Like we just say...
That's weird.
What?
That's weird.
We just don't have a word. We can say, like you say, your thirst is quenched. We would say, mein Durst ist gelöscht. Gelöscht can mean erased. It can also mean in the form of quenched, like I've put a fire out. Because when you put a fire out, then you erase the fire. That is löschen, Durst löschen. And Minimundus is from Austria. Hello. So you can say something about this. Yeah, and they try to come up with, well, if being full of from your food is called satt, than being your thirst quenched from drinking something. We should call it zit.
What?
Zit.
No.
No.
In English, that's completely different.
It's not sit. It's zit.
Yeah, a zit is what we call.
No, not a pimple. With an S, not with a Z.
Oh.
Anyway.
Language barrier.
Yes. Funny stuff. And the thing is, they really pushed this. There was a media campaign. Didn't work. People just thought this is stupid. Fuck off. And maybe this was a test to see if they could get away with this language engineering. The thing is, we don't need that word, and therefore doesn't catch on. And pushing a word onto people usually makes them feel like, this sounds weird. I don't want it. This is stupid. I'm not gonna talk like that. But with the pronoun bullshit, they bully people into it, and they teach it to the children. Because imagine if you taught the children from kindergarten on that being your thirst being quenched, the word for that is zit. They would grow up believing that is actually the case. That is, however, not a natural evolution of language. That is a change pushed onto children. It's engineered. It's not natural, and therefore shows that that is not necessary. And that is what they do with the pronouns, and one of the many reasons why they want to push gender ideology into preschool, into kindergarten. Not just the first grade, into kindergarten. Because they want to justify all of this crap you see on screen here right now by growing up a generation that will say, oh, but we've always talked like this, it was never different. Because we already have the kids that grow up telling me that, oh, singular they is something I've always used, it was always like that. I had the conversations with staunch conservative young people, 18, 20 years old, telling me that, no, singular they was always a thing.
Only in very select instances.
Give me one.
You put me on the spot. Now I can't think of one.
Like people mistake certain things like, okay, you were in the Navy. When
Yes.
a ship, when there is another ship approaching, or you have something on the radar or something, and you don't know yet what it is, do you say to the other? Do you refer to the other ship as he, she, or they, or it?
They.
Why?
Because we don't know what it is, and plus it's a group of individuals on the ship and a country.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But mainly it is a. You could say it's a legion. It's a multi-entity. Multi-entity entity. Language nonsense with wisp. There could only be one person on that ship. But you still would say they, because you don't know. Usually we expect there to be multiple people on the ship. Once you know the captain and are communicating with the captain of the ship, how do you refer?
Well, if it is a ship, if we're talking about the ship itself, we'd call it a her. If we're talking to the captain himself, we call him captain.
Okay. And we've seen a lot of this in... Yeah, but if you talk about third person, about the captain and the captain's decision of the other ship. Because, for example, you're reasoning with the captain. I know it's very special, you probably didn't have this happening in your Navy time. But we see a lot of this also in TV series, in movies, whether they are about war or science fiction of a crew. You can see this in watch 90s science fiction, 80s science fiction. Nobody talks like this. Nobody uses the singular they bullshit. Only in the instances that we are, like in Star Trek, we come across a ship, it's they, because we don't know the number of crew, how many on board, what it is. It's a multi-entity. It's a many. When we know, oh, we're talking with this guy on that ship. That's the guy we talk with, the captain. Or the captainess. But be glad that the feminists didn't push that shit. Because in Germany they did.
Oh no.
Yes, we have a female type of every profession.
See, they wanted to change how we addressed each other in the Navy because we call each other by our rate instead of by our rank. So for me, it would be CTM3 Cyrec or what have you, whatever other rate somebody could be. Well, they got rid of that at one point and we're like, you're all just petty officers now. And we're like, no, nobody's gonna call us that. It's a Navy tradition to call somebody by their rate because they worked for that rate.
Interesting. Yeah, what you see in those shows is that once you know who you're talking with, who's in charge of the ship, the crew on the bridge usually talks about that person specifically in the third person as he or she. If it's talked about the people, like the Klingons, the Kazon, it becomes a they again, because you talk about what the culture does. Or the nation does, the Romulans. The Romulans are doing. That's not a singular they, because the Romulans is a multi-entity. Other days I might have better words for all this. I wish my brain was as it was 5 years ago. Seriously. Alright, and Horned Rabbit has joined us. Hello, Horned Rabbit.
Hello, Horn Rabbit.
Alright, let's get on with this. I think because I tend to lose track of my thoughts lately. It's just getting worse.
Can identify. If you're unsure how to use someone's pronouns after that person has disclosed what their pronouns are, just ask, clarify. I just want to make sure that I'm using your pronouns in the correct way.
Why do we need to go through this ritualistic bullshit? Like, why do you need... Okay, here's a question. Cyrek.
Yeah.
When I'm coming up to you... Hello, Cyrek. Oh, hello, stranger.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
Well,
what do you do?
I say I'm doing well. How are you?
How are things? What do you work for as? Like, how's the wife?
Yeah, things like that. You don't actually just go in and be like, "Hey, I'm so and so. What are your pronouns?"
My point is, there was something missing with everything, and it's hard to just make up a fake conversation on the fly. But did you notice something missing from everything I said?
No.
When I'm talking with you,
Yes.
I'm talking with you. Second person singular. Or, because English does this, has the same word for second person singular and we, you, they, second person plural, I think it is. Which is a honorific. And we have a similar thing in German, where we use the honorific, but it's different from the, we say du for for an informal one, for a close relationship, like a friend or family member or a child. You could say it's not the exact same, but it's like the Japanese saying chan, like to a child, chan or kun. And to, in a formal setting, to a stranger, to a stranger adult, that is, to a judge, to a doctor, a policeman, we say sie. That is not the female she. It is equivalent to your they. But we use that as a direct form. Where you say you, we then say the plural sie. Sie haben. And that is the like the Japanese then use the san at the end of a name. So when you're a friend, I tell you, wie geht es dir? So that is the you, du. If you're a stranger, I would say, wie geht es Ihnen? Which is the declinated form of conjugated form of sie. However, this is also for second person. This is for directly talking to you. What is third person singular?
Third person singular?
Yeah, what do you use third person singular?
I'm not sure. I can't think of anything.
You need more caffeine.
I do.
Someone spent money and sent Cyrek caffeine. Will I ever refer when I talk with you directly, one-on-one, will I ever use he, she, or it to refer to you?
No. If you're talking to me directly, no.
It's only when I would talk about you. That is usually when you are not in the room.
Yes.
The only people who talk to you in third person would be very archaic royals. That's a thing, at least in German. But this is really, really old stuff. The other thing we have is the royal plural. You also have that in English, and that is where your non-distinction between singular and plural you comes from. Because you usually, I would guess that you usually do not know whether you're using the singular or the plural you. You would just assume it.
Yeah.
So when I talk with you, or with a general, it is probably the singular, isn't it?
Yes.
When you talk with a doctor, singular or plural?
Singular.
When you talk with a judge, singular or plural?
Judge is your honor.
Yes?
So singular.
No, it's plural.
What?
Because it's the honorable royal plural.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and see, this is the thing. In English, you don't notice this, that you refer to singular people in plural. You only refer to people in plural, like we do in German, with the stranger that we call sie. When it is used in for a special station. So the German version of referring to a judge would be Euer Ehren. So Ehren is honor, but we say Euer, which is plural. The singular of Euer would be dein, your dog, dein Hund. Your honor, if I talk to you directly and talk about your personal honor, like if it's a stat in a video game, like your reputation, it would be deine Ehre. But the judge is your honor, euer Ehren. And what the socialists are doing here is basically wanting some special pronouns that confuse plural and singular that seem to me a lot like royal plural. They may not be entirely aware of it.
It does seem like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, they want royal titles. They make up royal titles for themselves. And everyone, oh, well, a lot of them, make up new pronouns in order to have the most special and unique title. It is a game of out-narcissisting the other narcissists.
All I got in my head now, whenever you said out narcissist the narcissist, it's just a whole bunch of people going up against one another and just fighting to the death.
Yeah, they're fighting to the death. Look at me, no, look at me, look at me, nine, look at me, nine, no, me. It's like, can we just put a lid on that and go away and act like it never happened?
No.
I'll just be for throw them all in the Colosseum and keep all the gates shut. Then they can keep out narcissisting each other.
Do you know what XIE?
So you say Z.
Z? Mm-hmm. But then there is a Z right below.
Mm-hmm. There's different ways to spell and pronounce pronouns. It's complicated and nuanced, but it's important
not
for
nuanced,
us
it's
to
bullshit.
understand that complexity.
My next guest has been criticized online for his views
Oh my
about
God,
gender
finally!
identity. His reply may surprise you. That's
I have a question. We've done this for 2 hours now.
Yeah.
We've got through a bit. We've got through the pronouns bit.
Yep.
Cyrek and chat. Should we basically have a stream with one topic. Should we go on into the actual meat with meeting Matt Walsh, or should we postpone that for the next episode? That hopefully doesn't take a half a year to happen.
Well. Let's look at it this way. We have 3 hours before the Sisyphus experience.
Is that today?
Yes, it's Saturday.
Oh God.
We've been going on for 2 hours. We talked about one topic. It would be better and more concise to have this argument in these 2 parts that we've had already. And then whenever Matt Walsh comes in, have the full debate as a separate stream.
Okay, so you want everything nice and orderly like a proper autist.
Yes.
That's
I'm trying to keep your autism in order, so I'm bringing up my inner autist.
Thank you. I also need to see the room that people go to all the time but never talk about. Minimundus Wispy, why do we why do we now have so many narcissists? Yeah, maybe that's a thing to close off on. Why do we have so many narcissists? That is a surprisingly easy yet complex answer. So it's not simple and simple and complex. It is just it's an obvious thing and it is complex. And there are several ways I could start on it. So first we need to let's start from the narcissist. Where does the narcissist come from? The narcissist tends to come from. There are always several factors. It's always multi-factor nonsense. But strong factors are Oedipal parents. That means they can be anti-authoritarian or they can be helicopter parents that always treat the children, no matter the age. They can be 30 years old. They will always treat them like toddlers. That is usually the mother doing that. The mother will always treat her child as if it's still a babe that needs complete protection from everything in the world and therefore needs everything done. That is correct behavior for a toddler, because a toddler literally cannot do anything but eat, drink, well, mostly just drink because, well, breastfeeding, consume food, piss, shit, barf, burp, and cry. It is a completely helpless organism and dependent for several years. And that's only when we get into the stage where, oh, the kid can walk. The kid can make noises that are not just wah, wah. Cool, great, awesome. But that's still that kid still needs protection and lots of oversight. The Oedipal mother, there are Oedipal fathers from the behavior. So don't get confused by the words. It's not necessarily that the mother wants to have sex with the child or the other way around. It's just that many of these Greek mythologies have inspired some terms in the inception.
Yeah, because the Oedipus complex is not an Oedipus complex. If it was an Oedipus complex and you found out unwittingly that you slept with your own mother, you'd gouge your eyes out. That'd be an Oedipus complex.
Yeah. Yeah, so the problem with the Oedipal mother is that she never mentally gets out of this phase for thinking my child is this helpless toddler thing. She cannot reconcile the fact that her child is now older, can do things on its own, to the point of being sexually mature, having a job, having a wife, having children of its own. She's still gonna see the toddler. That is a problem, because that means that the Oedipal mother, and many products of Oedipal mothers do not necessarily get married and have children, some do. It's because due to this overarching mother, the child cannot develop, because it can never get out there and find its actual capabilities, because the Oedipal mother does everything for the child. This way, the child never learns what limits actually are. In the anti-authoritarian instance, the child is never reined in, is never punished for anything, even the most atrocious deeds, like kicking a granny on the market day, on the village market, and then the mother then says, "Oh, why? Can't you please stop kicking the old granny? She's hurting, and now she's on the floor. Oh, please, can you stop kicking the granny, please? No, she's bleeding now. Oh, can you please stop kicking the granny? She's dead already." Like, these are delusional parents that believe that they can reason with a child. You can only reason with certain children, not with all of them, and only starting at a certain age. Until a certain age, children need very, very concrete sets of limits. Some less so, some more. Some, sadly, do need the hard reining in, because they only understand direct consequences. And this is a very, very ugly truth for some people. So a child that never learns to respect the boundaries of other people, because it's never punished for overstepping those boundaries, never learns where those boundaries are, just like the completely helicoptered child. And you can have combinations of the helicopter parent that is also completely neglectful and doesn't punish the child. You can have both at the same time. It's a very confusing way to grow up. And it is very hard for such a child to figure out where the limits are. A narcissist, then, does not know the limitations of where the boundaries of other people begin. For one, that is one of the hallmarks of narcissism. And they also do not develop empathy. They are emotionally immature. They act like 5-year-old kids because they always got away with it. They never needed to develop further. We all start going through a narcissistic phase in our life. That is, you could roughly say 3 to 5 years old, and then parenting gets that out of us. Because if that parenting doesn't happen, there's no need to get out of it. It is sufficient for survival. It is sufficient, the strategies, the thought patterns that we have there, the tools we have developed, are sufficient to get through life and get what we want. Not just what we need, but what we want. Our brain is a very, very lazy thing that always optimizes for how do I spend the least amount of energy. And when that means, well, I don't need to develop those higher brain functions, they're not needed. if the brain isn't pressured into that, it won't develop that. And that means the child won't develop into a proper adult. It won't mature. It won't even get past the age of 5, emotionally speaking. You can still have a quantum physicist with an IQ of 140, but it can still be emotionally 5. That's these people that throw tantrums when being criticized. When you criticize the work of a narcissist, the narcissist cannot distinguish between the work and himself. The work is an extension of the self. Just like the children of a narcissist are extensions of the narcissist. They're not their own people. So this is the Oedipal mother, especially the Oedipal mother, is one main source of creating narcissists. So how do you get an Oedipal? So usually a good father with a spine and some guts can act as a counter to that, because the father's job is to tell the kid, man, you fucked up, and now go out there and have some adventure. Play outside, play in the mud, play rough and tumble. Yeah, you can be out of sight for 5 minutes, but then you come back. Next time, you can be out of sight for 10 minutes, then you come back. Like the father can safely pushes the kid out a little more, but in a way that is still comfortable for the parent. Because that way and encourages the child in, try it yourself. No, I'm not gonna help you. I know you can do this. You can fix this broken thing. You can solve this puzzle. I believe in you. You can do this. The Oedipal parent, and that can also be the father, can also get annoyed, impatient, and then just see the child struggling with solving the puzzle, and then just do it for the child. That way the child didn't learn anything. And even gets discouraged because you feel like, oh, I can't do anything. Like that father, or could also be the mother, that parent, probably struggled to solve the same puzzle, him or herself. But now that the parent is older and can do it quickly, the patience for the child, understanding that the child hasn't solved it yet a first time, takes longer. And in practice, that is things like do a small thing in the workshop, like put some nails in the wood or something. Yeah.
I can tell you exactly what the first thing your dad is going to have you do in the workshop. Hold the flashlight.
Oh God.
Then you can move up from there.
Oh God. Flashlight holding.
Yes.
Yeah, great. It's a good example. Right, so that is one source of that. So then also the question: how do you get a mother not being reined in by the father? An Oedipal mother not being reined in by the father. Because then, yeah, question.
How do you get a mother not reined in by the father?
Yes.
The mother going behind the dad's back?
That could be, yes. You could also have a weak father who's just subservient to the mother because he's been trained by the narcissistic wife or even the psychopathic wife. The psychopathic wife completely trains the husband into a subservient tool that is just being exploited, and she stunts his personality into like she represses her husband's personality. So that father will also be completely useless. So what's another way how a mother could not be reined in by the father?
Let's see. Another way would be... I have no idea.
The chat has the answer.
Chat has the answer.
Chat has the answer. Do we have chat open? Probably not.
I do now.
Okay. What's it say?
No father.
Exactly. So,
I forgot.
yeah.
I forgot because my mom was a very caring woman even after her dad passed away.
Well, there are women who can play both roles, but it's rare. And who can rein in there. I want my child to be safe. Yes, you do, and that's a good thing. But you also need to recognize that your child is mature and self-reliant in a way. And all you do by doing everything for your grown-up child is depriving your child of agency and the ability to stand on his or her own feet. Because imagine you are that forever child, and then your Oedipal parent dies, passes away. Because the parent is usually older than the child, as far as I'm aware. What then happens to the child that
Really?
never
No?
learned to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, to do anything? Like your Oedipal mother did everything for you, so you never learned to do anything yourself. What happens when she dies?
Uh, what happens whenever she dies to you? You don't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, how do you pay bills? How do you make money? How do you buy food? It can be that extreme. How do you get your medicine? Like it's absolutely horrible, and it shows that this Oedipal care for the child is actually dooming the child. In its final conclusion, it dooms the child. Because then you have some 50-year-old, 70-year-old mother dies, and the completely stunted 50-year-old doesn't know anything. That's at best a social case. At best. Yeah, I'm really I mean this, like that person may not even be able to feed himself or herself. May not even know how to
Yeah.
buy food. Let's prepare it. So how do we get into situations where there is no father? Well, the urban black population in America is an example of that. And that is why that is a main problem. They create that demographic keeps creating narcissistic children because of the absence of fathers. And that leads to an inability to form lasting relationships, which in turn creates more fatherless children. So it's a devil's cycle. It's a spiral downward. And you can only get out of that by consciously deciding against it, figuring out that, wait, there is a way out of this. Usually the people have to be told that. And that is having a stable relationship and creating a stable household for your children. The problem with that is that those people are kept in perpetual brokenness, let's say, because that's what the propaganda tells them. Don't have proper families because that is white supremacy or some bullshit like that. That's where it starts. That is why the socialists try to destroy the family unit. Because then you are always more reliant on the state. Because when your parents die, well, you don't know how to make money. Well, that's the state that hands you money. So the state becomes your Oedipal parent. The kids of Oedipal relationships, like Oedipal kids, that's what I call that, seek to replace the Oedipal god parent with another god. And that can be a religion, or it can be the state. But it is the thing that tells me that it cares about me, all-encompassing, and solves all my problems. That's what that person will always look for. Which is also why a lot of these children, when they get older, look for a replacement of the Oedipal parent in their future relationship. It's where you get these guys that just replace their mother with their wife. Also works the other way around. girls with daddy issues. Another way to get this is war. The men die, and the mothers are left with the children at home. It's number one. There is just the father's just dead, died in the war. Next thing, and that is the post-war generation. And we've had that is the baby boomer generation, by the way. That is the kids are the baby boomers. They are raised by a generation, by a hard generation, that was functional, but they just went through a war. They lost so many people. And now they have children, maybe just one. And that child will be...
Is the last thing that they have of their
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah, but also if the husband did survive. That child is everything. Because we just had a war. So many people died. This child is everything. We do everything for this child. So they will, even though otherwise they wouldn't be Oedipal parents, will act in an Oedipal fashion. Because this is your prince, this is your princess. Especially when it's a single child. And so that child may not even learn how to clean his or her room, because the mother will just do it. So you get the helicopter parent.
Mm-hmm.
So that is another source of creating narcissists. And that is how we got a whole generation of narcissists in the baby boomer generation. What we have right now is an amplification of narcissistic behavior through social media. That is a new thing. That is a completely new thing, a new factor that we could not foresee. Because in social media, you can use in order to solely get validation. And you do not need to learn to deal with your negative emotion from negative feedback. That includes valid criticism. Valid criticism is negative feedback. Because it gives you, it allows you to just look away and go looking for that nice positive feedback again. And it also came up with all of this nonsense of, negative criticism, all criticism is harassment. Because that's how the narcissist sees criticism. All criticism is harassment. Because you're perfect. Look at all this positive feedback I get. Look at all these likes I get. I must be a god.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh my god.
There's a thing.
Minimundus, that is very nice of you. Thank you. That is high praise. Thank you. The connection between communism and Satanism. I don't know enough about Satanism to talk about that one. And then we also need to talk. First need to figure out: are we talking about the ironically named Satanism or the actual worship of the devil? Because those are different things as well. I wouldn't say communism is actively worshipping the devil, but I think the way that Christianity describes the worship of the devil, communism is damn close to it. Yeah. Narcissism. Very, very annoying thing. And the thing is, it's been described throughout the millennia. It's been described in the Bible. It's been described in other mythologies. It's been described in the Enuma Elish. In the Gilgamesh epic. Like the whole okay. I hope I'm not putting in too much on everyone. Who here knows the Epic of Gilgamesh?
I do.
Okay. Do you remember the stories about Ishtar?
Ishtar? Some.
Yeah, what did Ishtar want of Gilgamesh?
That I don't remember. I just know of Ishtar and some like I wouldn't even say minor things about her.
Yeah, okay, well, Ishtar, goddess of love and war. And I think that the people back in the day, that far back, understood that love and war are the same thing in a way, are very much more closer together than to be separate domains and goddesses. Ishtar, well, let's say she slept around a lot, and then threw her guys away when she got bored with them. And eventually she noticed Gilgamesh and his epic deeds. So she wanted him, be adored by him, spending the night with him. What did Gilgamesh do?
I don't remember. Like I said, it's been a long time since I looked at
he told her, "Get lost, ho! I know what you did with all your other guys." It was a Chad. Gilgamesh was a real Chad, the original Chad, and so Ishtar. What does Ishtar do? She goes crying to Daddy.
Sounds about right.
To the god to her godfather, father god, and forgot the name right now. Who was the father of Ishtar? Anyway,
question.
Yeah. Anyway. So Ishtar went crying to her daddy, and he was like, "Ah, God, this is awkward. Not again. Why is she always doing this?" And she wanted her father to cast several plagues as revenge. Some other stuff. I'm not. So I don't remember all the details. Eventually, she said, so she's resentful for being rejected by the guy she wanted, because she's a hoe. She sleeps around, and she only toys with men until she gets bored with them and then moves on to the next. She's not just a narcissist. She's even closer to a psychopath. But essentially, Ishtar is a brat. What does Gilgamesh? So eventually she asks, "Can you send the bull of heaven to beat Gilgamesh and punish him for having rejected me?" And say, "Okay, have the bull of heaven. Just stop, please stop cry bullying. Please stop guilt tripping me, daughter." So Ishtar kills the bull of heaven. Ishtar stands on the wall and is really pissed. That, how could you kill the bull of heaven? Like, yeah, you sent the bull of heaven at me to kill me. Of course I killed the bull of heaven. Like, yeah, but you can't kill the bull of heaven. It's the bull of heaven. Like, no, the bull of heaven is dead.
Well, yeah, don't send it after me.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have sent the bull of heaven after me. Huh? So what does Gilgamesh do? He rips off the leg of the bull of heaven, and hurls it across the city into Ishtar's face, who's still standing on the wall. Bam! So Ishtar goes back crying.
She goes back crying a lot, doesn't she?
Well, yeah, because she's a brat. Ishtar, the goddess of war and love, is a narcissist. She is one of the first mythological figures that represents a narcissistic personality disorder. And she embodies the lunacy of selfish, obsessed love. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I don't know, more than 10,000 years old? How old is the Epic of Gilgamesh?
I don't remember, but
12,
I do know
16?
They keep finding new parts of it.
Yes, you can. Archaeology. If you're looking for a job and are good at learning languages, Archaeology is a good field to get a stable job in, because we have so many thousands of clay tablets that still have not been translated. Yeah, bit of overtime on that. Yeah, the whole narcissism topic is hugely interesting and scary. Like, if you've been through narcissistic abuse, God, that either makes you grow up or kill yourself, or both. Depends. But yeah, if you survive that, like surviving a narcissistic mother, the term surviving is really apt. And not turning into a narcissist yourself, that is an achievement. You can be proud of yourself. Seriously. You pat yourself on the back for that. And it's usually only that you realize in your 30s that you had a crazy mother. You may understand hints of it, and it may even be the reason why you ran away from home. But the real comprehension of it all, that the puzzle pieces all fall together, is for most people in their 30s. It takes that long to process all this shit. Also, because by that time you have enough life experience with mentally healthy people, that maybe you came across a functioning relationship. Maybe it wasn't your own, but you visited friends that had a functioning family with sane parents. Or a friend of yours that is sane got a sane girl for a wife, and then you meet them and you think, well, they are completely different from my parents with their child and with each other. Like, huh? And then you can see the differences, and it's easier to put things together then. Of course, it helps more when you see that earlier in your life happening, like in your teens. That, wait, my family isn't working like this. I thought these functioning families are like just TV stuff, magical stuff on TV that doesn't really exist. That's not how it was for me in my teens when I stayed over at a friend's place in the other end of the country. Like, sitting down together as a family to have a lunch and dinner and breakfast? Like, what is this? And what, they talk with each other about normal things and problems, and then what happened at work or at school? Like, what? Or their hobbies, and they support each other in their interests and hobbies, and sharing knowledge. What is going on? Seriously, with a psychologically broken family, none of these things may ever happen. Like, zero. That is not a good environment for a child.
Nope.
Yeah, Minimundos, I'm sorry. I know it's late. It's about midnight. We'll close off. I'm just trying to find a good note to end on. Yes, if you're interested in the topic of narcissism, personally, especially when you suffered through narcissistic abuse, and also from antisocial people, from borderliners, all of that, I recommend to you the YouTube channel of Dr. Ramani Durvasula. She is one of the leading figures in that type of research, and at the same time is extremely good at explaining issues and situations about that. Dr. Ramani. Look for Dr. Ramani. Ramani. She's a very, very wonderful person, from what I've seen. And I still didn't get around to read her books because I'm stuck in another. That's that.
Why does that just sound like you? Oh, I meant to get around to this book, but I found this other book.
Well, one of the psych books I'm stuck in is extremely hard to read for me, because like every line is a brick in the face. I'll talk about it eventually, if I ever get around to make content, actual content, not just live streams with me babbling incoherently. Oh yeah. Any closing words, Cyrek? That's not good.
What? What's not good?
It's not a good closing.
Everybody have a good day. And have a great weekend.
Okay. Yeah, everybody have a good time. I hope we can get to the actual thing that this show is supposed to be about soon. And thanks for all the contributions in the chat. And see you soon. Hopefully see you all soon.
Hopefully. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.